Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be part of this particular panel discussion with very eminent educationalists and administrators on a topic which is highly contemporary. Let me first of all congratulate IMA for having organized this event. I can see from the experience of the last one day or so that we have had some very, very interesting discussions on higher education in general and the way forward in particular. When we think of higher education and the disruption that is either being caused to us and that which we collectively need to also do in order to survive in the future, there have been multiple opinions while the end result seems to be uniform in the sense that all of us are agreed upon the need for churning out graduates, churning out students who have not only managerial or technical competence, but also are rounded individuals in the sense that they are industry ready, they are sufficiently steeped in principles of ethics, responsibility, and sustainability. They have cross-functional abilities. They have got a global perspective. And also the organization to which they ultimately go, whether it is their own, if they are entrepreneurs, or if it is a corporate, the spirit of inclusion and diversity is burning bright. Now, all these are wonderful principles. And some of these, or most of these, have also been reflected in India's national education policy recently. So the challenge before B schools generally, or higher management institutions generally, would be to how to sort of implement these into the curriculum, how to do this administratively in a way that is seamless, in the sense that the change cannot be sudden. Change has to be gradual, but at the same time, it cannot be too gradual. There has to be a plan, a middle level, a medium-term to long-term plan as to how this needs to be implemented. At the same time, there are some very severe challenges as well, in the sense that industry and academia don't seem always to see eye to eye as to what exactly the final product should look like. So, several discussions on industry academia panel, of which I myself am a member with the Confederation of Indian Industry here, as well as with the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. I'm sure that all the other panel members have also been or are members of such fora. You would see that there's a sharp difference of opinion as to what exactly academia should be doing and what industry should be doing to sort of make the job of the academics easier. The clarity that is required from the industry as to what the freshers or the eventual managers should be doing has not always been there. So with changing technology, with changing globalization and changing requirements of cross-functional skills, it is a challenge even for the corporate to actually spell out what are the specific things that people who come out of higher education schools do not have at this point of time and what they should ideally be having. So taking a management institute, for example, there is a limited time during which we have the challenge of bringing out not only higher management skills, leadership skills, strategic skills, but also all these soft skills which have been mentioned above. Now that is really a problem which institutes and higher educational institutions have been dealing with in their own way separately. Accreditation agencies, we are fortunate to have Amy here, Amy, in this particular panel, so we can have her perspective directly. Accreditation agencies have also laid down standards which are general in nature, which contain very lofty schemes for assurance of learning and also for making sure that all courses have their prescribed objectives very well laid out. However, the problem has been, in many cases, there have been instances where these have not been properly implemented, or if implemented once, they are not constantly revised. So we need to have constant interaction with accreditation agencies as well as experts all over the world for evolving this and moving forward. That's why I said right in the beginning that has to be congratulated for holding this event, because there's a very contemporary sort of issue, and which one will not be able to get a solution for with one sitting, but over a period of time, we'll all get several ideas which can be nurtured and brought together. We got a wonderful panel today, very eminent academics as well as educationalists. At the same time, people who have been highly experienced in administration as well. So what we'll do in the next 1 hour or so would be to have a panel discussion. But before that, I would like to take the individual views of the three eminent panel members on this contemporary topic, and maybe for about 5 to 6 minutes each. And after that, when the perspectives have all been put on the table, I have certain specific questions to ask them. And later on, towards the end, maybe the last 15 to 20 minutes, we will leave it to the audience to ask more questions. So I would like to begin with Dr. Urvashi Makkar of IMS Ghaziabad. Can you just kindly give your perspective first about disruption in higher education?
Thank you very much, Dr. Parasuraman, session chair, and my co-panelist, dear Ms. Memon and Dr. Rao. First of all, I really would congratulate IMA for taking this initiative to take up this highly relevant theme for the current scenario for this international conference. And in this session on the global scenario of higher education, expectations and values, definitely this is making the relevance much higher in the current scenario. And when we talk about the current scenario, the major drivers of global change are definitely reshaping the world in this 21st century, and specifically in this post-pandemic era. And I'm sure that no institution will be completely immune to these changes. The fourth industrial revolution, basically a fusion of exponential technologies, will prove to be as profound, I believe, as the previous industrial revolutions driven by steam, electricity, and computing. And undoubtedly, the ability to transform will be critical for all educational institutions to cultivate. So I'm very sure that they can shape and respond to a changing world of education. Based on this capability, their sustainability will be decided in the coming few years. And when we talk about specifically with the context of higher education, and that too in the global context, we have to believe that to define is to limit. So that's why we can't put up the boundaries to the benchmarks which we are putting up for the delivery in the field of higher education. And in our country, NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020, will be a game changer for sure because of its highly proactive clauses and the proposed execution format. In case if the cumulative wisdom of the country is aligned towards its effective implementation, no one can stop our country to become the leader in the education sector. And definitely it is a time to ponder upon, it's a time to reflect upon on the strengths of the education sector in totality in our country. Many higher education institutions around the world are at or fast approaching at crossroads. It won't be exaggeration to say that. And this crossroad definitely will define their future in terms of strategy and operating models. And there are going to be a lot of questions to be answered by every educational institution today during being on this crossroad, that like, do they really are ready for transformation? Do they optimize? Do they do nothing and react later? Or do they do nothing and face the inherent risks of inaction? So in this crossroad, whether they decide to go for the transformation or they decide to go for the optimization, or they sit idle and doing nothing. Definitely, these are certain very critical and pertinent decisions which are going to be taken by the educational institutions. And for majority of the institutions, irrespective of the various programs, the subjects they are running, and their professional capabilities, few aspects are uniformly common throughout all the higher education institutions, that the realistic choice likely falls between transforming their operating model and all that goes along with this in a reasonably short period, or achieving the same outcome over a longer period, spreading the expense and workload, that is optimizing, while taking the risk of first disruption, appending them in the meantime. So the key variable in deciding which is most likely are captured definitely when we talk about in four very important critical factors, and out of them the first becomes your decision whether to transform or optimize. And whether any institution is going to be a transformer or optimizer, the building blocks are going to be almost similar. And they are going to be based on very important four parameters. That is, first of all, they all have to review their strategy, mission, and purpose. And second focus has to be very strongly on improving the core capabilities. And then after that, they definitely will have to adopt a target operating model. And finally, undoubtedly, very important impetus significantly will be on modernization of the technology. And when we take the very first parameter of the strategy, in relation to this, much depends on a view of the future in one's own context, and a very comfortable, plausible view of the sector in the future may have few features like borderless, short courses and degrees, digitally native cohorts, experiential learning, focus very strongly on the life skills. And when we talk about specifically the cases like the professional courses, like PGDM program, which IMS Ghaziabad currently is running, or the MBA programs, the focus has to be very strongly on the skill enhancement and corporate readiness of the students. Because if the strategy is not aligned towards giving the employability to the students, no doubt whatsoever are the capabilities of particular institution, it is falling flat on its mission and purpose statement. The ultimate objective definitely is to give the core competencies, skills to the students to prepare them for the market. So definitely the strategy has to be aligned around all these focal areas. And when we talk about very important component of modernization.
Dr. Makkar, can I intervene? Can I intervene 1 minute? We'll quickly take the views of the other panelists also, and then come back to you specifically with questions on the very interesting 4 points that you have.
Very surely.
Can we have the quick views?
So I think based on these focal areas, I'm surely looking forward to listening to the viewpoints of the other panelists also. And the focus on strategy surely is going to make a lot of impact in the efficient transformation of the institutions. So I forward now the talk to the next panelist, and I'm sure that we'll come back with certain other queries and questions. Thank you.
I now request Dr. Srinivas Rao to give his views in about 6 minutes about overall the broad views that he has on the subject.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, congratulations to the entire team of IMA. It's the last 24 hours. It's a gigantic flow of knowledge, information, and technology is happening. And I will not go in detail for everything because she has touched upon a lot of points, and also you pointed very interesting points that, first of all, how do we do a curriculum? Curriculum treatment is very important. The second point comes to you that implementation of the curriculum, and also how B schools can be connected with the industry. This is the crisis. Now, the topic is today is the expectations, the management, education, expectation, and values. So who are expecting all these things? Definitely the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the students and society and at large industry. The processing what we do through our students, educating the students, particularly in higher education, they should be fit to the industry and fit to the society for overall development.
Yeah.
Something is flickering now?
No, it's clear. You can continue.
No, my screen is disturbing something.
But we are able to hear you very well and see you very well as well.
Is it? Yeah. Can you see, sir, now?
Yes.
Yeah. What I was talking about, that expectation that who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are the students, parents, community, and industry at large. So the entire 2 years of higher education, what we extend to the society, the outcome should be fit into the society as well as to the industry. Now also we have values now. The values which can be nurtured, social values as well as economic values. So what happened this last 2 years, we have been going through a lot of turmoils, and the expectation of the society became very fake now. The parents might have invested so much of money in educating the students, and industry might have got so much expectation from the manpower what is expected to be with the industry. In this process, the uncertainty and the turbulence has created a lot of fear. The skill part is concerned. Now, how do we nurture it? The case study, what we have understood long 5 years back only. The fibered, what we have done, not only last 2 years, 5 years back only we have done a great treatment of our curriculum. Because fibered is a brainchild of Dr. Sundar Raman, who happened to be an MBA from Cambridge and also an industrialist. So he happened to be the managing director and also CEO of different companies, and also he was an educator. So whatever the time he has spent 15 to 18 years in the education as well as in the industry, could find that there is a huge gap. As Dr. Parasuraman has said that, how do we fill this gap? Then the entire team of Siva Texchan and Fiber went to industry. They did not consult academician first. They went to industry. Particularly, they appointed a lot of consultants, both from the academia as well as from the industry practitioners at CEO, CXO levels and frontline managers and middle level managers. Then what they have done, they identified job description, what is required for next 2 years, 3 years in different functional areas of industries, particularly IT, food products and processing industry, heavy engineering, selected 10 to 15. They've identified that there is a long gap between industry and academia. We teach a lot of theory. We did not practice it. We end up with 2 months or 3 months or 4 months with an internship or a project or a half internship, something like that. So the curriculum, as per Dr. Parasuraman, what is it? That curriculum is a first criteria. We have nurtured it with a concept called action learning program. The students have fibered as a case study how we are fulfilling the expectation of the industry. We are only educating the theory classes only 3.5 hours in the first half. The second half, what we are trying to do that, we send to different industries to our student as an action learning program learners. We do not call our students as students, we call them as a learning associates. These learning associates are adopted by corporate mentors into different sectors. We have 120 students. All these under 20 students are engaged in the different verticals in different industries for 2 years. Half the 2 years program. So they come with a lot of different inputs to us. The inputs including curriculum treatment, change of syllabus, change of course also, and also the learning matrix that need to be adopted by in-house mentors also. We are doing a research on that. Here in this way, what we are having it, we have industry with us, we have learners with us, we have a faculty, and we have a clear job description what need to be fulfilled. This is initially I would like to start with my remark. Next, when you give me a chance, I would like to play a video, how the expectations of the society, how the expectation of individual, how the expectation of industry can be fulfilled.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rao. That's very interesting. Can I have the views of Memon, please?
Sure. So I'm going to put up my slides. I'm a visual person, so please bear with me, and I'll try and get through this within the time allowed. But just to kind of give you some insight on where I'm coming from in this platform is, the global scenario. So AACSB International is it's over 100 years old, established in 1916 by some of the best known brands in business education. And we are the world's largest organization or education alliance of business schools. And we really focus on looking at what is happening in the industry and how the industry can better serve society. So we have a presence in more than 100 countries and territories, and where our mission is to foster engagement, accelerate innovation, and amplify impact in business education. And my two previous speakers, and even Dr. Rao, also mentioned many things that I think, though these might be your perspectives here in your own institutions and things like that, it resonates with what we're seeing across business education globally. And that has impact for, you can kind of think about how that works in all facets of higher education. Business education is, we like, to look at it and say, as a extremely multidisciplinary field, professional. It's an art, it's a science. We really sit at that nexus of what's happening in higher education across the board as well. So just to give you an idea of sort of AACSB's reach, so again, where I'm getting a lot of this information from is our largest markets. India is our fourth largest market in the world in terms of number of our member schools, accredited schools, and then business members. So when I talk about sort of the global scenario, and this is, like I said, this is exactly what my previous speakers were discussing, is we're seeing the increased rate in technology disruption that's impacting higher education tremendously. There's the rise of new educational models. Dr. Urvashi was alluding to this. We're looking at micro-credentials, alternatives to degrees. The question about what is a degree is rapidly changing. And of course, business schools are seeing themselves as positive contributors to society and thinking about their role in that ecosystem. And I think what's really, really important in all of this is that there is this challenge to higher education of purpose across all variety of dimensions. And so just kind of taking some of this and kind of distilling it a little bit, I want to leave you with some insights. So the degree program, this is actually probably the most protected aspect of higher education around the world. Governments, decide who can call it a degree and who can't. And so the degree program has this immense value. Having a degree is something that will lead you to success in future, higher degrees will lead you to success. And that is being fundamentally challenged for what Dr. Urvashi was talking about, is it's become boundaryless, timeless, right? And what we saw during the pandemic was that there's this question of what is this value of the online degree program. And just to give you some insights, this is a GMAC survey that was done last year, and just gives you an idea what recruiters are thinking in terms of the value of an online degree program versus a face-to-face program. And in Asia, it's less than it is in the rest of the world, but there is a significant proportion of recruiters who do believe that there's an equivalence of on-campus and online programs. But when we look at what learners say, and I love, Dr. Rao, you mentioned learners, because we call them learners too. We don't call them students anymore. But you start to think of, this is at graduate education. But when you start to think about what recruiters say versus what students or learners say, it is vastly different. So students don't agree, learners don't agree that this is the case. So here, only 15% of domestic MBA students strongly agree in the equivalence of online versus in-face. And when you get to international bound students, it's even less, right? But not, the numbers are not significant across different degree programs to that extent. So I think that's something to take note, is that though the industry may have a value, the students may have a different value, right? And it gets even more contrast when you start to look at what matters to learners. Brand matters. So prospective MBA students interested in studying in their home countries, they would prefer an online program at a higher ranked institution. So we just saw they don't want to do it face to face unless it's at a higher ranked institution. So we have to be mindful that increasingly reputation matters, and students are making choices based on rankings, reputation, and convenience. But online is not a solution for everything yet. 91% of the students said that they believed that the on-campus learning environment provided better options for interaction, networking with peers. This may not seem surprising to many of you who are educationists, you've been involved in this process. It's just not there yet. The digital world is not there yet for this type of skill. But I say yet, because we're on the cusp of rapid change in technology. So, we have to stay mindful that it could change at any moment. There could be disruption even in this parameter. But just to give you an idea about kind of what we're seeing as sort of the opportunities and challenges that business schools should be mindful of, is obviously there's rapid innovation in teaching and learning since the pandemic started, but we saw it happening well before. But one of the things when we start to, I said, this crisis of purpose, this crisis of what is it that we're doing? If we didn't exist today, and Dr. Urvashi was talking about, having a strategy and having that be fundamental. We believe that at AACSB, absolutely. And one of the things that schools are recognizing is that the physical learning and experience is much better suited for this acquisition of what we call durable skills, which is a sort of evolution of soft skills, critical thinking, leadership, these kinds of things. These are much better taught in sort of this physical environment. And as you saw on the previous slide, we're talking about durable networks. Higher education has forever and continues to be a source of durable networks. Durable networks help students and graduates thrive in times of uncertainty, right? We know this, and higher education is well suited for that. And the physical environment, just as humans, is something that is much easier done. I'm not saying that it can't be substituted, but it's just much easier done in the physical environment. So we start to see schools recognizing that there's this shift. The physical environment has its values, but technology is even changing the physical environment to a strong degree, and it has the potential to keep costs low and improve assessment of learning outcomes. We also look at brand. I mentioned before, brand matters. And this is where we're starting to see schools that are positioned in the top tier are going to continue to reach a wider set of audiences, and they're going to improve their online presence to do that. So again, we see this growth at this top tier in terms of access, right, and quality. But business schools that want to play in that sandbox are going to have to focus on brand, and brand matters, right? And with that, what we're looking at now is saying, how do you enhance that brand? It's not just rankings. You cannot have rankings be the outcome that you're chasing. Rankings matter, but you cannot have rankings be the outcome you're chasing. The way that you reach sort of that set of students beyond, every school is looking to grab the same set of students. The way that you reach those students beyond, is through your thought leadership. Thought leadership puts you in front of a wider audience. And it's so, again, not just academe. Rankings look at traditionally academic impact, but there are increasing rankings that look at other types of impact, but we're really thinking and looking at schools that are reframing how their research impacts society. This is the long term. So short term, focus on the physical environment and how you can improve the acquisition of those durable skills. And then long term, start to look at how you can build the thought leadership of your institution, because it's that which will make you have a presence in the wider society, your school will have a wider impact, not just through educational delivery, but through these other things. So I'll take a stop there, I think, just so we can keep it going, but that's where we're coming from.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I mean, that was very appropriate. Now, I'm going to put some questions to the panel members, and then we can have a discussion based on this. We'll take the response from one member at a time, and after that, maybe the others can join for the same question, or then we'll have some different issues also coming in. My first question is to Dr. Urvashi Makkar, is regarding when we try to make these disruptions and changes because of this environment, how involved in your experience are the faculty for these changes, and what exactly should the institution be doing in order to make sure that the faculty also falls in line with the overall strategy or purpose, and what specific training that we need to give to the faculty team, because faculty constitutes, or a team of faculty would constitute a very important component in implementation of the strategy.
Well, that's a really very pertinent question. I must say that in any of the higher education systems, the faculty members are the drivers of change. They are the facilitators of any change, and not only they can serve as the catalyst, but they are on the forefront. And moreover, being the intellectual capital of any higher education system, they are the face of any campus. And when they are facing the learners, undoubtedly the clarity of thought and their alignment with the outcome-based education system, which the faculty members of the different campuses might be carrying, that can become the core competencies of the different campuses. Now, the strength and intellectual wisdom of the faculty members is a specific core competence which cannot be copied, which cannot be imitated overnight. And it is a capital which grows organically with the experiences, with the learnings, with the orientation in the research, the ecosystem of the institution, which has been created with a lot of efforts. And undoubtedly, the alignment of faculty members, their development and orientation in that direction is very important responsibility of the management of any institution. And that's the reason that when we today talk about the National Board of Accreditation, their focus is on outcome-based education. And very strongly, they focus on the program outcomes and course outcomes, its alignment. And before any course curriculum is designed, undoubtedly, every faculty member has to have crystal clear clarity about the Bloom's taxonomy, and based on that, they have to underline the course objectives. So I'm very sure that this is one of major responsibility of the institution to give a lot of opportunities to the faculty members to develop themselves and to understand this basic component of delivering academic quality in the classroom. Now, this is one aspect with respect to the academic quality. The second very important responsibility of the campuses is to give them the opportunities of growth in the research and publications. And that again become one of the strengths which no one can imitate of any campus. So creating the ecosystem of research in an organization is very important component, which currently is becoming the survival and sustainability principle of the organizations. And I'm very sure the institutions which will be having composite intellectual wisdom of the faculty members with the research and publications and very high H index, they are definitely going to have long-term sustainability. And the quality of research is reflected in the teaching delivery also. So that's why research and teaching and alignment to the outcome-based education, they have to go hand in hand in any campus.
Thank you, Dr. Urvashi. That is very interesting. My other question, next question is to Amy Memon, is regarding assurance of learning, which is a part of the accreditation process by any leading agency. But what are you touched upon certain things or the challenges of online education in your presentation. My question is basically when we try to implement these changes and bring in softer courses also and total skills also into the fold of managerial education, how would the intended learning outcomes or the assurance of learning look like, and what are the changes that you anticipate?
Yeah, I think one of the things when you talk about, technology disruption, I think one of the major areas where technology has the potential to improve our assessment of these durable or soft skills, right? It's always been, a test, right? A test at the end of the course was able to capture whether the student learned or not, right? But we're seeing much more this rise of authentic assessment, the ability to assess student learning as and when it happens. So this whole concept of outcome-based education, it was sort of at a more rudimentary level until the rise of the type of technology that has come into the educational process. I had a conversation with a company, a startup this week that was looking at, how to create campuses in the metaverse, right? And one of the things that they said that just, it stuck with me was the fact that if you're in the metaverse and you're in this immersive environment, the data is being produced all around as you're learning, so that you're able to extrapolate evidence of learning in a variety of forms. Now, I'm not saying that's I think that is a portion of the future, but it's this concept that, and we learned this, is that student engagement can be assessed in different ways when you use technology. And so these durable skills, it's kind of technology is moving faster than our ability to assess, but we see this over and over again that will move towards more authentic assessment as we go. And as far as AACSB is concerned, I mean, for us, it's not the assessment itself that's so important. It's what you do with that information to improve. And if you have more information and you have the ability to analyze it and make better decisions about your curriculum, then that's the future of higher education, I believe.
Thank you, Amy. Dr. Srinivas Rao, my question to you is about the national education policy and its wish list of wonderful things that needs to be accomplished. How to go about it is a challenge, but at the same time, everybody would agree that whatever has been proclaimed in the national education policy is an ideal sort of situation for graduates to have or possess when they complete their program. Now, what changes in curriculum? You mentioned about some of the changes that you are bringing about for industry, etc. But what changes in the curriculum and the design of the pedagogy also, which would you think will be happening in the future in order to accommodate all these very highly evolved principles of NEP?
That's great, sir. In fact, see that basically now management education is concerned, it became a multidisciplinary. And the kind of students what we get as an input are also from different verticals and different disciplines. Now, national education policy has taken really nice initiative that we accept from all the functional areas, and management education happen to be now terminal degree. Whether it's a medical doctor, whether an engineer, whether a commerce graduate, whether a science graduate, everybody would like to pursue. The best graduates would like to look forward to the IIMs. Now, when the education is policy is concerned now, this is the various metrics are involved in that. The metrics which need to be focused now, the fundamental metrics are the technical skills and technological alignment. The biggest challenge is today that technology is changing at a speed that human thinking pattern cannot think about, because it's a million minds are working on the technology, and the society is not able to adopt it also. Because if we take India, we have only 39 crores of students, out of which 6 crores are higher education, around 29 crores are in the school level. Now think about that. Do we have that kind of competency in providing the infrastructure to match the technology. Second level thing comes that the curriculum need to, understand the human element. We are missing human element. We are more machine connected now. The human element is really ignored it. Today, you need to have a human skills and human endurance. That is missing a lot. When you have a technical competency plus human skills competency multiplied by your design thinking pattern, definitely you will be in the platform of innovation. And this innovation requires a passion. And when there is innovation, the adoption process is very difficult. Particularly, we are talking only the premier business school. But what about the 3,700 affiliated colleges in the country? Around 4,000 MBA programs are running, PGDA program and MBA programs are running, but only 200 top business schools which can afford this technology intervention. But what about the government universities? What about that affiliated colleges where the capacity is not there? So the curriculum must be treated from the industry point of view at different level. If we make a product which is not suitable for the industry, there is no point in this progression. We are having a number progression, but not the qualitative employability. So at Firebird, what we have been doing continuously, we are connecting, we are inspiring the question which you asked Urvashi ma'am, that how do you motivate your faculty? How do you engage? We engage our faculty in 3 dimensions. First, we create that physically they are very comfortable. In the campus, physically they are very comfortable, and also mentally they are very comfortable. Physically and mentally we make much comfortable. We give all infrastructure facilities for greater learning. Because many, you'll find in national level, the comfortness is very, it's not very so good. So what happened? The security is there for the employment and the progress is there for employment. Good perks and salary is connected with the industry intervention. So that makes us very comfortable, adopting any uncertainty in this kind of things. The action learning program, what I was talking, is basically continuously students are involved. In a large, in an entire country, we see that 8 hours of teaching is very difficult. 8 hours of engagement to the student, when they are at, you will see that the mobile will be keep on in their hand only, WhatsApp, internet, what are things that happens? How to keep engaged them? So maximum we can keep engaged, fully engaged at 4 hours. Next 4 hours, we keep engage them in industry, real-time industry where they get, paid also. So this is the curriculum treatment which we would like to, endorse, which can give results also.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Continuing the discussion on curriculum changes and the way the planning has to go, my question to Amy is, most accrediting agencies also give emphasis on globalization and corporatization of institutes, in the sense that how much of exchange programs and how much of exposure students have to the international environment, etc. What do you think? What do you anticipate as the changes that are likely to take place in the years to come, given the time constraint for having all this being done within the 2-year program?
Yeah, well, okay, so there's 2 questions there, right? So what happens to the 2-year program, and also what do we think about internationalization? So AACSB doesn't have anything, any value around internationalization, but we do believe that standards are set at the international level. And these are outcome-based standards that every school, no matter where your location is, there should be a variety of diversity. How you get there is up to you and is specific to your context, but we don't require that every school be international. We have a value around global mindset, and this is the belief that business doesn't have boundaries. So business is everywhere. Business transcends national boundaries, and so it's important that anyone in the business education domain be able to adopt a global mindset through the curriculum, through the experiences of students, but it's not specific to internationalization, and we're very specific. We're very intentional on that parameter. The other part that you're talking about, which is what's going to happen to the 2-year program. Well, the statistic is that if you are an affluent person in the world today, born today, you will have a 50% chance or more of living to be 100. So this whole concept of education, work, retirement is just going out the window. right? So what is it? So why are we concerned about lifelong learning? Well, we're concerned about lifelong learning because 2 years doesn't mean anything in that time frame, right? We see, people being educated, getting their PhD when they're 60, right? This idea that you need to be retrained, reskilled constantly. You can call it the hedonic treadmill or whatever, but that is so crucial. So the fundamental of what a 2-year program can deliver is just sort of the nuggets, the values, some of the influences that's going to guide you through the rest of that period to make sure you stay relevant, you stay current. So that's why I talk about durable skills. It's not so much what skill today that you're learning, it's that do you have the skills to obtain skills, right? And that's going to be really, really important in the future.
Thank you, Amy. My next question to Dr. Urvashi is going to be on, there have been changes in India about model curriculum and also thoughts regarding how the class contact hours should actually come down and maybe more time to be given for specialization courses and less time for core courses, vice versa. Both ideas have been there. What is your take on the class contact hours? Should it come down and have more projects and cases, etc., or practical study? Or would that, in that case, would it be a compromise in the sense that management education is all about developing certain core concepts in various topics, and would that be compromised in the process?
Well, it's very relevant question which you have asked. I must admit here that with the proliferation of social media today and abundant of information already available on the various sources, the students definitely are not focusing on the information. They are definitely not focusing on getting the understanding of the concepts. Experiential learning definitely is the core component of the B schools today, and active experimentation, which can happen in the overall curriculum structure, that has to be the focus of the B schools currently. And without any doubt, today the customer sovereignty has become a reality. And in the higher education system, undoubtedly, the learner is the biggest stakeholder. Every single strategy is intertwined around giving that best learner experience and the personalized experience to the stakeholder. And in last 2 decades, it has been observed that many higher education systems have fostered competition between providers to create quasi markets as those systems moved from, you can say, elite to mass participation even. And just now, Amy has highlighted that no doubt the shift is from the physical campuses to the online delivery, a lot of short-term courses coming up. So many of the degree courses have been evolved and innovated by the campuses, which are offered through the online model. Undoubtedly, the choice of the learners was typically constrained initially by resources, geography, and information. Now these barriers to choice are being already overcome. And the next shift will be from mass face-to-face to mass digital learning. And when already we have accepted that this change is going to happen or is already happening currently, undoubtedly the focus on the longer classroom hours is not making much sense. And when in the B schools, the focus is on the experiential learning, undoubtedly the focus has to be on various innovative pedagogical tools, which are incorporating the components of the research projects, alignment with the corporate, the live projects given to the students, case study based discussions, and no doubt very strong impetus given to the article analysis also of the various journals. So undoubtedly, sometimes it has been very clearly observed that there has been a talk in the sector about blended and flexible learning, but the reality has been that currently online resources have supplemented the dominant mode of delivery, which was synchronous and in person, and probably coming anyway is the reverse situation. Courses are going to be designed to be delivered through technology nowadays, undoubtedly, and supplemented by face to face human support also. So there is definitely going to be humongous change in the delivery process, and the classroom definition is going to be transformed today. It is early days, but the written word is already being accompanied by video, mixed reality, simulations with realistic holograms, a possibility. Smart boards for every subject open up the possibility of personalized learning at scale and monitored by advanced learning analytics. And if the learner does not have to leave home or work to experience this, of course, the learner's choice finally opens up. The age of the customer is now hitting the universities even, and they have to take the final call and make changes in the curriculum accordingly, which will justify the skill enhancement of the students. So focus definitely has to be on the experiential learning, skills, corporate readiness of the learners, and their employability quotient. And based on that, the curriculum definitely have to be transformed. Once upon a time, after every 2 years, we used to go for the curriculum upgradations. But the way the technology disruptions are happening in the market globally, undoubtedly the universities and campuses will be compelled to upgrade their curriculum on annual basis even. So these are few of the points which comes to my mind. Undoubtedly, I'm sure more additions can be done by the other panelists, because this aspect is definitely very, very important for any of the B school. Thank you.
Wonderful, great. In fact, I would like to take the views of the other panelists on two broad things. Amy was mentioning about the 2-year program and then online and then executives required. So different sets of people or stakeholders who are going to be interested in management programs on the one side. The second challenge being that, we are, from the institutional side, we're going to give so many things, as the other speakers were saying, Dr. Urvashi was saying, and Dr. Rao was saying about experiences as to what exactly we try to deliver in our pedagogy, the methodologies, as well as the different types of orientations that we do. But third, which I want to ask each one of you is, with both these being taken as given, how does the evaluation take place? Does the evaluation has to be softer, in the sense that, do you really feel that the time has come when we need not give so much emphasis on evaluation, or should it be strict? Because the big problem has been that if the evaluation is not strict, then mediocre people can also, within inverted commas, pass the program and pass muster. But whether that is the intention, or do you think evaluation has to also fall in line with that? I'll begin with Amy, because you would also have within your AACSP standards regarding rubrics and assessments. So what changes do you think will happen because of these different types of learning?
So one of the things that we implemented in the 2020 standards is this, and we added in as a must that schools use indirect assessment. So when you're talking about this concept of evaluation, who is being evaluated for what, right? And one of the things about indirect assessment is that is about taking the views of the stakeholders. So whether it be students, it be alumni, it be industry, and asking them, what is your evaluation of these skills that our students have? And that is so much more, we're saying it's equal. In ACSB, you have to have some of both, you have to have a mix of both, and it has to be appropriate to the type of degree, right? So if you're doing a master's program, an MBA that is an applied degree, it means that your students can apply what they're learning in the world of work, right? Whatever that constitutes. So you have to ask the world of work what that means. And a test or something designed by faculty who have never been in the world of work will not be an appropriate evaluation for that type of degree. But also faculty are trained in how to assess certain types of learning and the pedagogical tools and things like that. So direct assessment is still extremely valuable, especially because it gives you feedback on where to make adjustments to make sure your students are learning the outcomes. So indirect assessment is extremely important. But direct assessment remains important. But the whole idea of all of this is not strict or soft. It is, at the end of the day, do your students have the skills, the competencies that the industry or whatever goal in life they're looking toward are able to do, right? So it's truth in advertising. We require that you have faculty that if you say that you have a master's in marketing, we require that you have faculty that are at the top of their field in that discipline, because that intellectual capital matters to the even recognition that you've actually achieved those skills, right? So there's this concept is much less in sort of the strict evaluation, I guess, as you could say, but more along the lines of, at the end of the day, are you producing a product or student, a learner in the market that can do what you said they should be able to do?
Thank you, Amy. Dr. Rao, what is your take on evaluation?
Absolutely, sir. That one of the biggest question is evaluation. What we should evaluate? Is it the course curriculum only, or holistically the overall development of an individual? At Firebird, we look in three metrics. Number one, personal development. As an individual, when a student comes here, what is the growth matrix? Overall is personality development. We implant a program called Personality Enhancement Program. So we give a lot of importance to an individual development. Then we have a second metric that is called social development and social contribution. That what role he can play when he goes out of the B school into society, and what contribution he can deliver to the society. Third, we come to professional development. So in the professional development, we have a 30-70 model. 30% we allow them to spend time on the theoretical frameworks. 70% of the remaining time, we give the evaluation on the case studies, real-time stories, and also spending their time into the industry only. Because Firebird is an industry business linked business school. It is developed by an industry. So our evaluation pattern is completely on 70% of the time in industry only. So we give most importance to the mentors of the industry, how they, appraise their performance in the industry. Because finally, the product has to go to the industry. And remaining 30%, we take care of our internal evaluation system. Of course, we try to comply other accreditation agencies also, but our biggest agency of accrediting as our employers, the industry only.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Rao. What is your opinion, Dr. Urvashi?
In fact, in this particular perspective, undoubtedly, we are also following multiple metrics for the evaluation of the students. We cannot focus unidirectionally on the curriculum, because when we talk about the assessment of the learners, undoubtedly, the biggest focus is on their cognitive faculty and how much has been the growth during their stay in the campus. So that's why we are following, and I'm sure it is being considered as one of the best practices that right from the beginning, the competency mapping of the student is done, in which we are trying to understand and map the requisite critical competencies required for a professional ready to join the market very soon after 2 years. Those competencies are mapped, and after 1 year, this process is repeated again, and the impact analysis is done within our campus to understand that which competencies have organically evolved and what interventions have contributed towards the organic development of those competencies. And those interventions definitely are given more impetus in future, and they are taken up as part of the curriculum. Like, say, for example, the competency of having analytical decisions. For this competency, various interventions have been adopted and they are part of the curriculum assessment. For example, article analysis, it is one component which carries 5% component in all the subjects. And the article can be from various journals, from Harvard Business Review or some Indian case study based on the subject. Similarly, to understand this aspect of critical decision making, undoubtedly the case study analysis is one intervention which is adopted in the curriculum. And based on that, the assessment is done on this particular skill. So the skills which are mapped as a result of the competency mapping, they are definitely giving very clear overview to the interventions to be adopted in the campus and the continuous assessment of the students, to be part of the continuous assessment. So keeping that into mind, the change is happening definitely, and it is an evolving area. It is not an area which is static and once it is finalized, it has no scope to be changed. It's highly agile area in terms of the assessment of the students. So curriculum is only one of the focus, but undoubtedly the focus is on the competency analysis and to adopt the interventions for the growth of those competencies. But again, here is one very quick take on this point. Which competencies are critical? That has to be analyzed again and has to be chosen wisely. For that, the stakeholders' feedback becomes the very important perspective. The stakeholders are the recruiters, the alumni, even the various segments, the current students. So based on highly structured feedback from these different stakeholders, the competencies are mapped and then they are aligned with the interventions within the curriculum.